Kimberley is a land of extremes, hot and cold, wet and dry, with extreme tides. In the southern part of the Kimberley there has been much more folding of the crust and erosion of the hills to create a more undulating profile. As a result, there are few major waterfalls from rivers here, but there are some special waterfalls caused by the tides. The most famous of them is the horizontal falls. It's so popular that seaplanes bring tourists to see it from Broome and Derby. We had arrived by ship and used rubber zodiacs to see the falls. The horizontal falls are in Talbot Bay, north of Broome in the Kimberley. It's the result of the very high tides of up to 10 metres in this area, along with a particular geological formation. Behind these cliffs is a large lake, or an embayment, which is fed by the seawater through this narrow gap of about 30 metres in the cliffs. These cliffs are made of Pentecost sandstone, about 1,800 million years old. As the tide rises, so the water swirls and banks as it flows through the narrow gap. We went through at low tide, so there was little water banked up. However, there were still some swirls in the water. A little like rapids, these swirls and banking of the water change direction twice a day as the tides rise and fall. Behind this first lake, or embayment, is a second one, through a second line of cliffs. We approached the second narrow gap, but this gap has some sharp rocks jutting into the gap and is more perilous than the first. We didn't go through there. These rocks are older Walton sandstone, about 1,840 million years of age. We turned around to head out of the first gap and back to the ship. The second example are the thousands of waterfalls which flow off Montgomery Reef, the world's largest inshore reef. What is remarkable about the reef is that it disappears under the sea twice a day, only to reappear as the tides drop. The tidal range here is about 8 metres or more, so 5 metres or more of the reef can be exposed. As the tides drop, the sea cascades off the reef in thousands upon thousands of waterfalls. Both soft and hard corals are exposed.
Things like that in the deeper lagoons and channels. You also got the big clams and all that sort of thing. It's all in the reef here.
It is a spectacular sight. A third waterfall is to be found off the Prince Regent River, 30 kilometres upstream, named King Cascade. It was named in memory of Philip Parker King, who himself had named many features of this area. Fed by springs, it's a good source of fresh water all year round, although the amount of water falling over the rocks varies considerably. The picturesque scene is enhanced by the plants growing in the rocks, silky brown top and large blue grass, along with palm-like pandanus and paperbark. To the side of the waterfall are figs, ferns and mangroves. While this may entice swimmers to bathe in the fresh waters, crocodiles also enjoy these waters. We were not allowed out of the boat, but the boat did get sufficiently under the waterfall to give people a chance to get wet, if they wanted to. Further north, we had the opportunity to visit the Mitchell Falls. The first part of the journey was by the little Zodiacs, which took people from the ship to a small beach. On the beach, 2 helicopters were ready to ferry people to the falls. With all the passengers securely belted into their seats, we took off from the sand. Then it was over the Mitchell Plateau. This is the Mitchell River National Park. As we neared our destination, we were able to get our first glimpse of the falls. We landed on a rocky shelf and walked around the rocks to a better viewing point. After the wet season, a considerable amount of water cascades over the falls. The river flows for nearly 120 kilometres. 6 creeks and rivers feed the river, and altogether it drains a great area of the Kimberley of nearly 3,000 square kilometres. The 3 tiers of falls of the Mitchell Falls add up to nearly 80 metres. These were originally falls at the end of the cliffs into the sea, but over millions of years the water has cut the gorge in the sandstone plateau, moving the falls upstream. The 5th waterfall is found in the northerly part of the Kimberley, on the King George River. On either side of the river, cliffs of Walton sandstone tower, often 80 metres above the river. Like other rivers in the area, this river probably once fell into the sea over the sea cliffs. But over millions of years, it has eroded the rocks, retreating inland and creating this great gorge. Some 12 to 14 kilometres upstream, the river divides into 2, and one finds oneself at the base of 2 waterfalls, each between 80 and 100 metres high. They claim to be the highest single falls in Western Australia. The flow over the waterfalls in the wet season is immense and produces great spray and mist. The water disintegrates particles of sand in the rock. This is aided by salt crystals growing in the rocks. The result is small hollows or taphonae in the rocks, and a multitude of these taphonae produces a honeycomb effect. Over a period of 1,800 million years, the landscape has been formed by the sea and by the water that has flowed off the Kimberley plateaus, producing the unique gorges, pools and waterfalls that we see today.